These are the harsh realities facing America's fifth largest city. Philadelphia just broke a 45-year streak as the nation's poorest major metropolis. Yet 1 in 5 residents still live in poverty, while its downtown office district lost over $1 billion in assessed value. This legacy city faces unprecedented pressure, caught between its industrial past and an uncertain economic future. Philadelphia's story begins with a stunning fall from grace. Picture this. In 1950, nearly 2.1 million people called this city home, making it America's third largest. The workshop of the world hummed with industrial might, employing 359,000 manufacturing workers, 45% of the entire labor force. Steel, textiles, shipbuilding, and countless other industries powered not just Philadelphia, but much of the nation's economy. Then came the great unraveling. By the 1970s, Philadelphia was hemorrhaging residents at an alarming rate, losing 13% of its population in that single decade alone. The manufacturing jobs that once defined the city evaporated. Today, fewer than 30,000 Philadelphians work in manufacturing, representing just 5% of the workforce. That is a staggering 90% decline from the post-war peak. What makes Philadelphia's situation particularly challenging is its unique governmental structure. Unlike most major American cities that share costs with surrounding county governments, Philadelphia functions as both city and county. This means the city shoulders the full burden of services typically handled at the county level: health services, human services, courts, and corrections, while drawing from a tax base that has been steadily eroding for decades. The numbers tell a sobering story. Philadelphia's population today stands at 1.57 million, roughly 500,000 fewer residents than at its peak. That's like losing the entire population of Atlanta. Each departed resident represents lost tax revenue, lost economic activity, and lost community vitality. But here the story takes an unexpected turn. Recent census data reveals that Philadelphia's poverty rate dropped to 19.7% in 2024, the first time it has fallen below 20% since 1979. For the first time in decades, Philadelphia is no longer America's poorest big city. That dubious distinction now belongs to Detroit, where nearly 32% of residents live in poverty. This milestone deserves recognition, but city officials are not celebrating. As Mayor Sherrell Parker's chief of staff, Tiffany Thurman, says, while it is a milestone that Philadelphia is no longer the poorest big city in America, the Parker administration takes no comfort in knowing that 1 in 5 Philadelphians still live in poverty. The raw numbers remain staggering. Roughly 300,000 Philadelphians live below the poverty line. More than a quarter of all children in the city, approximately 87,000 children, grow up in poverty. The deep poverty rate, representing those living in extreme deprivation, stands at 9.4%. These statistics become even more troubling when viewed through the lens of economic mobility. Harvard economist Raj Chetty's groundbreaking research delivered a devastating verdict. Philadelphia ranks dead last, 50th out of 50 metropolitan regions, in economic mobility. For black children born in poverty here, economic mobility has remained stagnant, and in some cases it has even declined. Think about what this means. A child born into poverty in Philadelphia has less chance of climbing the economic ladder than anywhere else in America. The American dream, that fundamental promise of upward mobility through hard work and opportunity, functions more poorly here than in any other major metropolitan area. The racial disparities are particularly stark. While black poverty rates have fallen from 31.2% in 2010 to 24.5% in 2023, they still substantially exceed the white poverty rate of 12.85%. Hispanic poverty remains persistently high, above 35%, notably higher than peer cities like Chicago at 18.2% or Detroit at 28.6%. These disparities reflect decades of systemic challenges, but they also highlight the complexity of Philadelphia's recovery. The city is making progress, but that progress is not reaching all communities equally. Now let's examine the second pillar of Philadelphia's challenges, the tax base crisis that threatens the city's ability to fund essential services. Philadelphia's fiscal structure creates a perfect storm of vulnerability. The city relies heavily on wage taxes, which generate about half of all locally generated revenue, an estimated $2.51 billion in fiscal 2024. This heavy reliance on wage taxes makes the city's finances particularly vulnerable to economic downturns and changing work patterns. The COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent rise of remote work fundamentally altered this equation. The makeup of the wage tax shifted dramatically, with proportionally more coming from Philadelphia residents and less from suburban commuters. Remote and hybrid work reduced the number of suburbanites traveling into the city, allowing many to avoid the wage tax entirely. The numbers are stark. The estimated wage and earnings tax paid by non-residents in fiscal 2024, adjusted for inflation, was 13% lower than in 2019. That is millions of dollars in lost revenue at a time when the city faces mounting service demands. Meanwhile, pension obligations consume roughly $868 million annually, about 14% of general fund expenditures. These legacy costs from past employee agreements continue to strain current budgets, limiting the city's ability to invest in growth and innovation. But the most dramatic illustration of Philadelphia's tax base erosion is happening in its commercial real estate market. The assessed value of Center City office buildings fell by more than $1 billion in recent years. Between 2023 and 2025, office building assessments dropped from $9.82 billion to $8.78 billion, a decline that translates directly into reduced property tax revenue. Individual buildings tell even more dramatic stories. Take 1500 Spring Garden, a 13-story office building near Broad Street. Its owners successfully appealed their assessed value from $192 million in 2022 to $76 million in 2025. The Building Owners and Managers Association estimates that the city will lose almost $4 million annually on that property alone. This trend reflects a broader transformation in how and where Americans work. Before the pandemic, Philadelphia's office vacancy rate hovered between 12 and 15%. Today, Center City office vacancy has reached 20.4%. Some buildings fare even worse. Center Square operates at 47% vacancy, while the historic Wanamaker building struggles with 65% vacancy. Brent Hutchinson, chair of BOMA Philadelphia, does not mince words. Make no mistake, the Philadelphia commercial office market, and the city as a whole, is at a critical inflection point. Employee return to office is presently not at viable levels. The ripple effects extend beyond lost tax revenue. Empty office buildings mean fewer workers downtown, which translates to reduced demand for restaurants, retail, and services. The entire downtown ecosystem suffers when the daily workforce shrinks. Interestingly, Philadelphia had been adapting to changing office demand even before the pandemic. Between 1998 and 2022, the city converted 40 office towers, nearly 10 million square feet, into residential housing. This adaptive reuse helped maintain downtown vitality while accommodating changing market demands. The third component of Philadelphia's challenge involves reimagining its downtown core for a post-pandemic world. Center City District Vice President Clint Randall advocates for diversification. He says we need to find more demand, recommending more housing, restaurants, and other non-office development to keep people coming to work in person. The goal is creating a mixed-use downtown that does not depend entirely on traditional office employment. Philadelphia's population increased by 10,500 people between 2023 and 2024, marking the first population gain in 4 years. Immigration drives much of this growth. About 21,000 immigrants moved to Philadelphia between July 2023 and July 2024, more than double the number who arrived in 2022. Currently, 15.7% of Philadelphia residents were born outside the United States, the highest percentage in about 80 years. These new residents bring energy, entrepreneurship, and cultural vitality that could help reshape the city's economic landscape. The city has also seen remarkable progress in public safety, a crucial factor for downtown revitalization. Homicides dropped from 562 in 2021 to 269 in 2024, a decline that makes Philadelphia's homicide rate lower than Baltimore, Detroit, Cleveland, Washington, D.C., and Chicago. Philadelphia's violent crime total in 2024 was its lowest in the 21st century. Employment growth tells another positive story. Philadelphia has seen 13.6% employment growth in the 5 years since COVID-19 began, with job growth of 2.1% in 2024, outpacing the national average of 1.3%. The unemployment rate of 4.5% remains manageable, though slightly higher than the 4.2% recorded in 2023. Mayor Sherrell Parker, who took office in January 2024, launched ambitious initiatives to address these interconnected challenges. Her HOME initiative represents a $2 billion commitment to create and preserve 30,000 homes over the next decade. The plan encompasses $800 million in city bonds, various federal and state funding streams, and $1 billion in publicly owned land. The goal involves producing 13,500 new housing units and preserving 16,500 existing homes. As Parker explains, Philadelphia is striving for a future in which there is an abundance of new housing construction and the preservation of existing housing throughout our city. Critics argue the plan doesn't adequately serve the lowest income residents. Patty Torres of Make the Road, PA, charges that Philadelphia is one of the poorest cities in the country, and this funding plan puts on full display exactly how we ended up here, prioritizing funding for corporate developers and people making over $100,000, while leaving low-income families with only a small percentage of funding. The administration pushes back, emphasizing that working-class residents also need city assistance. This debate reflects the difficult choices facing any mayor trying to balance competing demands with limited resources. The city faces another immediate challenge in Kensington, a neighborhood that has become synonymous with Philadelphia's opioid crisis. YouTube videos documenting conditions along Kensington Avenue have accumulated more than 300 million combined views, with viewers worldwide searching for the phrase Kensington zombies, a cruel slur for people struggling with addiction. The numbers behind the crisis are staggering. Nearly half of Philadelphians personally know someone with opioid use disorder, up from 31% in 2019. 1 in 3 residents personally knows someone who died from an overdose. The city made progress. Overdose deaths declined from 1,413 in 2022 to an estimated 1,100 in 2024, but the crisis continues to devastate communities and families. Parker's response includes the Kensington Wellness Court, offering treatment instead of jail time for people struggling with substance abuse. The city allocated $3.6 million to fund community organizations providing overdose prevention programming in the most affected areas. These local efforts occur against a backdrop of fiscal uncertainty. Philadelphia received $2.8 billion in federal grants during fiscal 2024, including $1.4 billion in American Rescue Plan Act funding that expired in December 2024. Local officials used this money to address what they estimated would have been a $1.5 billion cumulative budget shortfall. Without this federal support, Philadelphia must find new ways to fund essential services while addressing long-term structural challenges. The city's Tax Reform Commission, reconvened in February 2024, recommended eliminating the business income and receipts tax burden, lowering the wage tax rate below 3%, and making targeted investments to stimulate business and job growth. Matt Stitt, the Commission's co-chair, argues that the historical tax structure has made it challenging for ambitious Philadelphians to create businesses and hire from their communities. He says residents are stuck in cycles of poverty, while many others have to commute out of the city to job centers. These recommendations face the fundamental challenge of implementation, because reducing taxes means less revenue, at least initially, which requires either service cuts or alternative funding sources. The Commission proposes that major tax reductions would begin once the city's pension fund reaches 100% funding, projected for fiscal 2033. At that point, pension payments would drop by at least $430 million annually, creating fiscal space for tax reductions and new investments. This long-term thinking reflects the reality that Philadelphia's challenges developed over decades and will require sustained effort to resolve. The city's struggles mirror broader trends affecting legacy cities throughout the Rust Belt and Northeast. Detroit, Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and others grapple with similar combinations of population decline, industrial job losses, and aging infrastructure. What distinguishes Philadelphia is both the scale of its challenges and its remaining assets. Philadelphia retains major economic anchors that many legacy cities lack. The University of Pennsylvania and Temple University provide stable employment and attract talent. Children's Hospital of Philadelphia represents world-class healthcare infrastructure. Comcast, the city's largest private downtown employer, maintains its headquarters here despite having options to relocate. The city's location between New York and Washington provides strategic advantages, while its rich history and cultural institutions continue to attract visitors and new residents. The port remains economically significant, and the regional rail network, while aging, connects Philadelphia to prosperous suburban communities. Perhaps most importantly, Philadelphia has demonstrated resilience and adaptability throughout its history. The city that helped birth American independence reinvented itself as an industrial powerhouse in the 19th and early 20th centuries. When manufacturing declined, the city began developing its education and healthcare economy. Today's challenges require another transformation. The post-pandemic economy demands different skills, different spaces, and different approaches to urban life. Philadelphia's success will depend on how effectively it can adapt to these new realities while addressing the persistent poverty and inequality that limit too many residents' opportunities. The path forward involves difficult trade-offs and requires coordination across multiple stakeholders. City government, business leaders, community organizations, and residents must work together to create sustainable solutions. Quick fixes won't suffice. Philadelphia needs systematic changes that address root causes rather than just symptoms. The recent decline in poverty rates offers hope, but the city's last place ranking in economic mobility demands urgent attention. Creating pathways for advancement requires not just jobs, but good jobs that provide living wages and opportunities for growth. It means ensuring that all neighborhoods have access to quality schools, safe streets, and basic services. The downtown reset presents both challenges and opportunities. While empty office buildings represent lost tax revenue, they also create possibilities for adaptive reuse and mixed-use development. Converting office space to housing, as Philadelphia has done successfully before, could help address both the downtown vacancy crisis and the city's housing shortage. The tax reform debate will likely shape Philadelphia's trajectory for years to come. Reducing business taxes could attract employers and stimulate job creation, but only if the city maintains the services and infrastructure that make it an attractive place to live and work. Finding the right balance requires careful analysis and gradual implementation. Federal policy will also play a crucial role. Philadelphia's heavy reliance on federal grants makes the city vulnerable to changing political priorities in Washington. Diversifying revenue sources and building more sustainable local funding mechanisms could provide greater fiscal stability. Climate change adds another layer of complexity. Philadelphia must prepare for more frequent extreme weather events while contributing to national emissions reduction goals. Green infrastructure investments could address environmental challenges while creating jobs and improving quality of life. The immigration patterns that currently drive population growth represent both an asset and a responsibility. Successful integration of new residents requires language services, job training, and community support systems. Done well, immigration can revitalize neighborhoods and strengthen the economy. Done poorly, it can strain services and create social tensions. Philadelphia's story reflects broader questions about the future of American cities in a rapidly changing economy. Can legacy cities reinvent themselves for the 21st century? What role should government play in addressing persistent inequality? How can communities balance growth with affordability and inclusion? These are not just Philadelphia's questions, they are challenges facing cities across America and around the world. Philadelphia's responses could provide models for other communities grappling with similar pressures. The city that once served as America's cradle of independence now faces another defining moment. The decisions made today about taxes, housing, education, and economic development will determine whether Philadelphia can build on its recent progress or slip back into decline. The stakes could not be higher. For the 1.57 million people who call Philadelphia home, these are not abstract policy debates. They are questions about opportunity, safety, and the possibility of building better lives for themselves and their families. Philadelphia has survived revolution, civil war, industrial transformation, and urban decline. The city that gave birth to American democracy and powered the nation's industrial rise possesses the resources and resilience to write another chapter of renewal. Whether it will depends on the choices made today and the commitment to see difficult transformations through to completion. The legacy city pressure is real, but so is Philadelphia's enduring capacity for reinvention. In a rapidly changing world, that might just be the city's greatest asset of all.